We're going to move right in now to a look at the retail outlook, and this is a double header. I'm going to start with just some current industry trends from our study group CSX database, and then invite Ryan McNutt, who's CEO of Sigma, to talk about some of the legislative issues that he sees affecting the industry. So in this short little study here, we looked at 112 retail convenience store chains operating just under 6,000 stores collectively. The data are from July of 14 through June of 2015. So these would be members of our study groups. And in this study, we sorted these 112 chains by the number of stores they operate. So there's 22 1 to 10 store chains, 62 11 to 50 store chains, and 28 chains that operate 51 or more stores. And so you can see the average number of stores per firm. Average square footage, not very different. But the thing I would draw your attention to that just jumped out at me when I looked at this is pre-tax income per store per month, which has been good for the industry, at around 15,000, 16,000. But for the smaller operators, just under 6,000 a store per month. For the mid-size, just under 11,000 per store per month. And for these large chains, enjoying over $18,000 per store profit per month. So the question would be, why are these larger operators doing so much better? Are there some things that we can see that might offer us some insights? And one is, these larger operators, despite having similar footprints in terms of store size, are generating way more sales. Notice the fuel sales, 120 for the 1 to 10 store, up to almost 140 for the larger chains. Merchandise, similar for the merchandise and food service, similar for the 1 to 10 and 11 to 50 store chains, but much higher for the larger chains. So we're driving a lot more dollars of sales. So at a given gross profit, we're going to be driving a lot more dollars of gross profit. But interestingly, and maybe some of you guys have better interpretations than I do on this, fuel margins have been substantially higher for the larger chains than the smaller chains. Is it because larger chains are more private branded as opposed to oil company branded? Is it because they're buying much better? But you combine larger fuel volumes with higher margins on a cents per gallon basis, and you can see that the large chains are earning $15,000 per month of gross profit from fuel, more than the smaller chains. Margins aren't that different on inside sales and food service, but again, because of higher overall sales, we've got about 13,000 higher inside gross profit dollars. So that gives us $25,000 more gross profit per location to work with. Now, it costs more money to run bigger stores that do more business, but if we look at this, and express their expenses as a percent of their gross profit, because they got more gross profit to work with, their expenses as a percent of gross profit are lower the bigger the chain. And we won't go through these on a specific basis, but this whole presentation will be available for you. So don't worry about, I didn't get this stat, I didn't write this down. You can have this to review at your convenience. Anyway, all said and done, total expenses run 90% of gross profit for the smaller chains and only 78% of gross profit for the larger chains, even though their absolute expenses are higher, and that gets us to this pre-tax income level. So as I wrap this portion of the retail outlook up, some of the challenges that I would see facing convenience store operators and petroleum marketers is, the long-term decline in demand for motor fuel, gasoline. That's 30% of typical site profit. The long-term decline in demand for cigarettes, which is about 12.5% of site profit. So those revenue sources aren't easy to replace, but need to be. And then there's a number of regulatory issues that have either been enacted or on the horizon. And I'm not going to talk about these specifically because we have a real expert coming up to share with us on that in just a minute. But the other thing that I would point out is consolidation in this industry is going on at such a rapid pace. You know, we're finding all of a sudden that I'm not competing with who I thought I was competing with, but now it's part of an MP that operates in multi-states, and they have buying opportunities and other opportunities that perhaps you don't have, which changes the whole retail landscape. So with that as my sort of quick introduction on the retail picture,